The scent of hot biscuits and brewing coffee was the first thing Elvis Presley usually registered when he woke up at Graceland. It was a comforting smell, a daily reminder that he was home, safe from the roar of crowds and the glare of spotlights. And behind that smell, behind every delicious, perfectly cooked meal he'd ever eaten in this house, was Maria. Maria Rodriguez wasn't just a cook. She was the heart of the Graceland kitchen. She'd been there practically since Elvis bought the mansion. A quiet, gentle woman with kind eyes and hands that seemed to work magic with food. She knew his favorite dishes, his comfort foods, his late-night cravings. She'd seen him through triumphs and heartbreaks, always there with a warm meal and a reassuring smile. To Elvis, Maria was family as much a fixture in his life as his guitars or his jumpsuits. One sunny Memphis morning, Elvis strolled into the kitchen, already feeling the familiar pang of hunger. Maria was at the stove, humming a low tune as she flipped pancakes. The room was bright, filled with the aroma of breakfast. He leaned against the doorway, watching her for a moment, a rare sense of peace settling over him. "Mornin', Maria," he drawled, his voice still a little husky from sleep. Maria turned, her smile lighting up her face. "Good morning, Mr. Presley. Sleep well." "Like a baby, thanks to your good cookin'," he grinned, reaching for a strip of bacon from the platter on the counter. "What's on the menu today? Smells like heaven." "Just her usual pancakes, bacon, eggs, grits." She listed, her voice soft, with a hint of a European accent that always charmed him. She was originally from a small village in Italy, something she rarely spoke about but held dear. Elvis grabbed a plate and started piling it high. "You know, Maria, I don't know what I'd do without you. You feed me better than any five-star restaurant. You got a secret ingredient, don't you?" Maria chuckled, a sound like rustling dry leaves. "Just a little bit of love, Mr. Presley." She paused, her gaze meeting his. And suddenly, a quiet seriousness settled in her eyes. "Actually, Mr. Presley, there's something I need to tell you." Maria rarely got serious. His stomach did a little flip-flop. "What is it, Maria? Is something wrong?" She sighed, her shoulders slumping slightly. "No, nothing wrong, not exactly. It's just, I've been thinking a lot lately and I've decided it's time." "Time for what?" Elvis asked, a knot forming in his chest. He had a bad feeling about this. "Time for me to retire," Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper, but the words hit Elvis like a thunderclap. The fork clattered onto his plate. "Retire?" he echoed, his voice rising in disbelief. "Maria, what are you talking about? You can't retire. Who's gonna cook my banana pudding? Who's gonna make those biscuits that melt in your mouth?" Maria offered a sad smile. "I'm not getting any younger, Mr. Presley. I've been working hard my whole life. My knees ache, and my back isn't what it used to be. It's time for me to rest, to spend time with my family." Elvis felt a cold wave wash over him. Maria retiring. It was unthinkable. He looked around the familiar kitchen, suddenly seeing it through new eyes. It wouldn't be the same without her bustling around, without her quiet presence. The thought of someone else in her place felt wrong, utterly, completely wrong. But when?" he managed to ask, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. "I was thinking by the end of next month," she said, her eyes still holding that quiet sadness. "It gives you time to find someone else, and for me to pack up my things." Elvis just stared at her, his breakfast forgotten. The news had landed like a bombshell. Maria, the anchor of his daily life, the woman who had nurtured him with food and quiet care for so many years, was leaving. The idea of Graceland without her, without the comforting rhythm of her cooking, felt suddenly hollow. He leaned forward, placing his hand over hers on the counter. "Maria," he said, his voice soft but urgent. "You know how much I appreciate you, don't you? Everything you've done for me, for my family. You're more than just a cook, you're family." Tears welled up in Maria's eyes. "I know, Mr. Presley, and I love you and your family like my own." This wasn't an easy decision. Elvis squeezed her hand. A million thoughts raced through his mind. How could he replace her? More importantly, how could he show her how much she meant to him? A simple thank you wasn't enough. A watch or a bonus check, while generous, wouldn't capture the depth of his gratitude. He needed to do something truly special, something unforgettable, something that would let her know just how much she was loved and appreciated. As Maria turned back to the stove, a new determination sparked in Elvis's eyes. He wasn't just going to let her leave. He was going to give her a send-off that would be as legendary as his own performances. He was going to give her a gift that would astound her, a gift that would truly convey the magnitude of her importance in his life. He just had no idea yet what that gift would be, but he knew, deep in his gut, that it had to be amazing. The news of Maria's retirement hung heavy in the air at Graceland, especially for Elvis. He tried to go about his day practicing guitar, reviewing song lyrics, meeting with his manager, Colonel Parker, but his mind kept drifting back to the kitchen, to Maria's announcement. He couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness that settled in his stomach, a strange, profound sadness that went beyond just missing her cooking. Maria had been a constant in his life, a steady, calm presence amidst the chaos of fame. She didn't ask for autographs or scream his name. She simply nourished him, cared for him, and provided a sense of normalcy that was rare for a man of his stature. She was the one who would quietly bring him a glass of milk and a piece of pie when he couldn't sleep, the one who remembered his preference for crispy bacon, the one who always had a kind word. As the day wore on, Elvis found himself pacing the halls of Graceland. He stopped by the dining room, picturing her setting the table with such care. He walked through the kitchen, remembering countless conversations, quiet moments shared over a late-night snack. He thought about all the years she had dedicated to him and his family. She deserves something more than just a gold watch, he muttered to himself, running a hand through his hair. He considered a new car, a large sum of money, a lavish retirement party, but none of those ideas felt right. They were nice gestures, sure, but they didn't feel astounding. They didn't feel like they truly honored Maria for who she was and what she had given. He sat down in his favorite armchair in the living room, staring out the window at the familiar grounds. What would make Maria truly happy? What would be a gift that she would never forget, a gift that would set her up for the peaceful, comfortable retirement she deserved? He closed his eyes, picturing her face, her gentle smile. He remembered a few snippets of conversations over the years. She'd mentioned her family in Italy, a small village she'd left behind decades ago. She'd talked about the simpler life there, the sun, the vineyards. She'd also, very rarely, expressed a quiet longing for something more, something perhaps she thought was out of reach. Think, Elvis, think, he urged himself. He had the resources. He had the connections. It had to be personal, deeply meaningful, and something that Maria would never expect. Something that went beyond money. Something that spoke to her heart and her history. He thought about her hands. Always busy, always creating delicious food. He thought about her quiet dedication. He thought about the modest way she lived, never asking for much, always giving. A flash of an idea, vague and unformed, sparked in his mind. What if he could give her back something she had lost? Or something she had always dreamed of, but never thought possible? This wasn't about him showing off his wealth. It was about expressing genuine love and gratitude. He decided then and there that he wouldn't just give her a gift. He would embark on a mission, a secret mission to uncover Maria's deepest, most unspoken dream, and then make it a reality. It wouldn't be easy. Maria was a private person. She didn't talk much about her past or her desires. He would have to be subtle, observant, and perhaps even a little bit sneaky. "Okay, Elvis," he whispered to himself, a determined glint in his eyes. "Time to put on your detective hat." He stood up, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about finding a new cook for Graceland. It was about making sure Maria, the woman who had nurtured him for so long, had the most incredible, most fulfilling retirement imaginable. He would start by paying closer attention. He would listen to her conversations, watch her expressions, try to pick up on any small clues she might drop, even unconsciously. The clock was ticking. That wasn't a lot of time to pull off something truly astounding. But Elvis was a man who thrived under pressure. He was used to making impossible things happen, to turning dreams into reality. This time the dream wasn't his own but someone else's, and that, he realized, made it even more important. He wouldn't rest until he found the perfect gift, the gift that would make Maria's eyes widen in disbelief and fill with pure joy. The next few days at Graceland felt different to Elvis. He wasn't just eating Maria's cooking, he was studying her. He approached his mission with the same intensity. He put into learning a new song or preparing for a big concert. He knew Maria was a private person, so he had to be subtle. He couldn't just walk up to her and ask, "Hey, Maria, what's your biggest dream?" That would just make her uncomfortable. He started spending more time in the kitchen, not just for food, but to observe. He'd casually walk in, grab a glass of water, and then linger chatting about his day, asking about hers. Maria, always polite, would answer, but he noticed she rarely talked about herself. He started paying attention to the small things. He noticed a worn photograph tucked away in a corner of her small office space, a faded picture of a charming old stone house surrounded by rolling hills. He'd never paid it much mind before, but now he lingered, wondering. One afternoon, he overheard her talking on the phone in hushed tones, speaking in Italian. He didn't understand the words, but he caught a few recurring sounds: casa vigneto, famiglia house vineyard, family. The words resonated with the faded photograph he'd seen. Later, he saw her looking at a worn travel magazine open to a page featuring the Italian countryside. Her fingers traced the pictures of ancient villages, sun-drenched fields, and quaint stone houses. There was a wistful look in her eyes, a longing he hadn't seen before. It wasn't a look of sadness, but rather a deep, quiet yearning. During dinner one evening, he tried to steer the conversation subtly. "Maria," he began, "you ever miss Italy? Your home country?" Maria paused, arranging a platter of vegetables. "Sometimes, Mr. Presley. It's been so long. My family is there, of course. My roots are there." "What was it like growing up?" he asked, trying to sound genuinely curious, which he was. "Oh, a simple life," she said, a small smile playing on her lips. "Small village. Everyone knew everyone. My father, he had a little plot of land, grew grapes. Not a big vineyard, just enough for our family, and a little extra to sell. We made our own wine." Her eyes glazed over for a moment, lost in a memory. The smell of the earth, the sun on the vines. It was a good life. "Sounds beautiful," Elvis murmured, making a mental note. Grapes, vineyard, family, Italy. This was starting to form a picture. He also noticed she saved clippings from newspapers about old European architecture, historical preservation, things like that. One article talked about a program to restore old abandoned family homes in Italy. He saw her eyes light up as she read it, a spark of something almost like hope. He put the pieces together. Maria loved her family. She missed her roots in Italy. She had a deep connection to the land, specifically vineyards, and there was that photo of the old stone house. Could it be? Could her unspoken dream be to return to her ancestral home, perhaps even to restore it? It was a bold thought, a huge undertaking. Buying property in another country, especially an old one, could be incredibly complicated. But the more he thought about it, the more it felt right. It felt like something truly astounding for Maria, a gift that wasn't just about money, but about history, heritage, and the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. He decided he needed more information, concrete details. He couldn't just guess. He needed to find out if that specific house in the photograph was her family home, and if it was even still standing or available. This was going to require more than just observation. It was going to require talking to someone who knew Maria's past intimately. He thought about the few times Maria's niece Sophia had visited Graceland. Sophia was a sweet girl, very fond of her aunt. She might be able to shed some light on Maria's family history, perhaps even about that old house. He decided he would reach out to Sophia, but he would have to be careful. He couldn't let Maria find out. This had to be a complete surprise. As he watched Maria hum while she kneaded dough, her hands moving with practiced ease, a warm feeling spread through his chest. He was going to do this for her. He was going to give her back a piece of her past, a piece of her heart. It was going to be the most satisfying gift he'd ever given. The next morning, after Maria had left for her usual day off, Elvis sought out someone he trusted implicitly. His father, Vernon Presley. Vernon was a practical man, not prone to dramatics, but he had a deep love for Maria and understood the loyalty Elvis felt. They sat in Elvis's office, the blinds drawn against the harsh Memphis sun. "Pop," Elvis began, leaning forward, his voice serious. "Maria's retiring." Vernon nodded, a quiet sadness in his eyes. "Heard about it, good woman Maria. Gonna miss her cookin' for sure." "More than just her cooking, Pop," Elvis said. "She's family. She's been here through thick and thin. I gotta do something for her. Something big. Something she'll never forget. Something astounding." Vernon raised an eyebrow. "Astounding, huh? What you got in mind? A new Cadillac? A house here in Memphis?" Elvis shook his head. "No, Pop, not just a material thing. I've been watching her, listening. I think her heart is somewhere else. Back in Italy, there's this old photo she keeps. And she talks about her family, a vineyard. I think she dreams of going back, of somehow reconnecting with her past. That's a tall order, son. Italy's a long way off, and old family homes can be tricky." "I know," Elvis admitted. "But I have to try. I want to give her back her heritage, her roots. I just need more information. I don't know the specifics of her family home, or if it even still exists." Vernon considered this. "Maria's a private woman. She wouldn't talk about something like that much. But there's someone who might." "Who?" Elvis asked, his eyes widening with hope. "Her niece, Sophia," Vernon replied. "Remember, Maria's sister passed a few years back, and Sophia spent some summers in Italy as a girl, before her family moved here. She might know more about that old house." This was the exact lead. She was kind and seemed to genuinely adore her aunt. He knew she wouldn't betray Maria's trust, and she certainly wouldn't leak anything to the press. "That's it, Pop," Elvis exclaimed, a surge of excitement running through him. "Sophia, you're a genius," Vernon chuckled. "Just thinking practical, son. You want to give an astounding gift, you gotta know what you're aiming for." Later that day, Elvis discreetly called Sophia. He explained the situation, emphasizing the secrecy. "Sophia, this is for Maria. She's meant so much to me. I want to do something truly special for her retirement, something from the heart. But I need your help. It has to be a complete surprise." Sophia listened, her voice filled with warmth and understanding. "Oh, Mr. Presley, that's so kind of you. Aunt Maria deserves everything good in the world." "She does," Elvis agreed. "Now I've noticed her looking at an old photo, an old stone house, and she talks about Italy, a vineyard, her family. Is there something there, special place?" Sophia paused, then her voice softened with a hint of nostalgia. "Oh, you mean the old family home in San Lorenzo? It was my mother's village, too. It was a beautiful place, a small farmhouse, very old, with a small vineyard behind it. Our family, the Morettis, owned it for generations." Elvis's heart quickened. The Morettis, San Lorenzo, and the house, what happened to it? Sophia sighed. "Well, when my grandparents passed and Aunt Maria and my mother, and this house, it just fell into disrepair. No one was there to take care of it. Eventually, my uncle, who stayed in Italy, had to sell it her. It broke Aunt Maria's heart. I think she never said much, but I knew it was gone. So it was sold," Elvis said, a slight disappointment in his voice. "Do you know who bought it, or if it's still standing?" It was bought by a family from out of town a few years after my grandparents, but I think it's still there. Aunt Maria would never go back to visit, even if she could. It was too painful, I think, to see it in someone else's hands. Elvis felt a surge of hope mixed with a challenge. This was it. This was the core of Maria's unspoken dream, her family home. "Sophia," he said, his voice firm with resolve, "would you happen to know the exact address or anything that could help me track it down?" Sophia thought for a moment. "I have some old letters from my grandmother. They often mention the address, or at least how to find it in the village. Let me look for them. I'll call you back as soon as I find something." "Thank you, Sophia," Elvis said, genuine relief washing over him. "You have no idea what this means to me. And remember, not a word to Maria, not a single word. My lips are sealed. Mr. Presley," Sophia promised. As Elvis hung up the phone, a wide grin spread across his face. He had the clue, he had the starting point. This wasn't just a gift anymore, this was a quest. And he was determined to bring Maria's lost home back to her. The idea of her reaction, of seeing her cherished past return to her, filled him with a warmth that rivaled the Memphis sun. This was going to be truly astounding. With the crucial details from Sophia, the village name San Lorenzo, and the name Moretti, Elvis knew exactly what he needed to do. He immediately called his most trusted people, his chief lawyer Richard and his business manager Tom. He summoned them to Graceland for a private urgent meeting. When they arrived, Elvis laid out his plan, his voice low and serious. "Maria, our cook, she's retiring. She's been with me for years, and she's family. I want to give her the most incredible farewell gift, something she'll never forget, something that truly speaks to her heart." He explained about the family home in San Lorenzo, the vineyard Maria's quiet longing. "I want to buy it back for her if it's still standing and if it's for sale. And if it's not, I want you to find a way to make it happen discreetly. Absolutely no one, especially Maria, can know about this." Richard, usually stoic, raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Presley, buying property in Italy, especially an old family home that might not even be on the market, is a complex undertaking. Foreign laws, multiple owners, potential disputes. I understand the challenges, Richard," Elvis cut in, his voice firm, "but this isn't about money for me. It's about gratitude. Maria gave me her life, her care, her love. I want to give her back her past, her heritage." "Find a way, Tom," the business manager chimed in. "We'll need to send someone over there, someone experienced in international property deals, and they'll need to be very quiet about who the buyer is." "Exactly," Elvis agreed. "No one must know it's me. Tell them it's an anonymous American client who wants to invest in historical properties or something like that, whatever it takes to keep Maria in the dark until the very last moment." Richard and Tom, seeing the determination in Elvis's eyes, nodded. They had seen him like this before. When he was truly set on something, they knew resistance was futile. Within hours, calls were being made. A small, specialized team of international real estate agents and lawyers was assembled. Their mission clear: locate the Moretti family home in San Lorenzo, Italy, and explore every avenue to acquire it. They were given the few scraps of information Sophia had provided: a rough description of the house, its approximate location in the village, and the family name. Teams started their research, digging through property records in Italy, contacting local historians, and quietly inquiring in the village. The initial reports were a mix of hope and frustration. The house was still standing, but it had changed hands several times since the Morettis sold it. It was currently owned by a family who lived in a nearby city and used it only as a summer retreat. It was not officially for sale. When Richard relayed this information to Elvis, he didn't waver. "Okay, so it's not for sale. That doesn't mean it can't be bought. Every man has his price. Find out what that price is. Offer them more than they could possibly imagine. Make it an offer they can't refuse. But make sure they understand it's for the land." Elvis stressed the importance of the property's historical and emotional value, not just its market price. He also instructed them to look into the condition of the house. Was it in good shape? Did it need repairs? He wanted it to be perfect for Maria. The process was slow, involving multiple time zones, intricate legalities, and delicate negotiations. Every day, Elvis waited anxiously for updates. Couldn't share his secret with anyone else at Graceland, not even Priscilla. The burden of the secret, combined with the pressure of the timeline, weighed on him. Maria's retirement date was fast approaching. Despite the stress, Elvis felt a profound sense of excitement. He imagined Maria's face when she finally learned about the gift. He envisioned her returning to her childhood home, the place her ancestors had lived, the land where her family had grown. Grapes. It wasn't just a house. It was a connection to her past, a symbol of belonging. This was more than money or fame could ever buy. It was a true act of love and respect. He found himself humming old Italian folk songs he'd heard on records, picturing the Tuscan countryside. He felt a deep personal connection to this project, as if he were helping Maria reclaim a piece of her own soul. The wheels were turning. The great machine of Elvis Presley's organization was now focused on one singular, heartwarming mission: bringing Maria's dream home. The process of acquiring Maria's family home proved to be even more challenging than Elvis had anticipated. Days turned into weeks, and Maria's retirement date loomed closer. Richard and Tom provided regular updates, but often the news was more about obstacles than progress. "Mr. Presley," Richard reported one morning, "over a secure line. We've made contact with the current owners. They are a family from Monand, and they're quite attached to the property. It has been in their family for 20 years, a year. Are they open to selling?" Elvis asked, his voice tight with impatience. "Our initial offer, even a very generous one, was met with hesitation. They see it as a symbol, a family escape from city life. They're not actively seeking to sell it." Elvis sighed. "Okay, so we increase the offer. What about double, triple, whatever it takes?" He knew money wasn't everything, but sometimes a truly compelling offer could sway even the most sentimental owner. "We've done that, sir," Tom added. "The main challenge now is not just the price, but the emotional attachment. They're not just selling bricks and mortar. They're selling a part of their family history." Elvis leaned back. "Just give up." "No, sir, never," Richard said firmly. "We're exploring every angle. We've hired a local expert in Italian property, law and family land rights. He's looking for any historical precedents, any connections that might make them more inclined to sell." The next few days were a whirlwind of back-and-forth communication. The Italian team discovered that the Moretti family, Maria's ancestors, were well known in San Lorenzo. The house itself had a long history dating back centuries, with some unique architectural features. Current owners, while enjoying the house, hadn't invested much in its preservation. It was structurally sound, but clearly in need of significant restoration work. "It needs a lot of love, Mr. Presley," was the report from the architect they'd secretly sent to assess the property. "The vineyard is overgrown, the roof needs repair, and the interior is dated. But it has good bones. It could be magnificent with proper restoration." This news, while initially disheartening regarding the condition, actually gave Elvis an idea. "Okay," he told his team, "tell the current owners this. We're not just buying a house, we're buying its history. We understand its value to their family, but we also want to restore it. To bring it back to its original glory, we'll offer a substantial premium, of course. But more than that, we'll ensure that the restoration respects its history, and the village, maybe even invite them to see the progress, to understand it's in good hands." This approach, appealing to the property's historical significance and promising a meticulous restoration, seemed to resonate with the Milanese family. They were proud of the old house, even if they hadn't maintained it properly. The idea of it being lovingly restored, rather than simply bought and left to languish, appealed to their sense of heritage. Still, there was one final hurdle. The family wanted to be sure the anonymous buyer wasn't some developer who would tear it down or turn it into a sterile hotel. They wanted to know the buyer's intentions. Elvis decided to take a calculated risk. Don't mention Maria by name, but imply it's for someone with a deep connection to San Lorenzo and the Moretti family. This piece of information, carefully worded by Richard's legal team, was the final persuasion. Current owners, perhaps touched by the sentiment or simply overwhelmed by the generous financial offer and the promise of respectful preservation, finally agreed to sell. Contract was drawn up and signed in Italy with incredible speed, given the circumstances just 2 weeks before Mariah's scheduled retirement. Elvis's team moved mountains to get it done. Price was substantial, a testament to Elvis's determination and the owner's initial reluctance. But Elvis didn't care about the money. He felt an immense wave of relief wash over him. It was done. The house was theirs. Now the real work began. It needed not just repairs, but a complete loving restoration to truly become the astounding gift he envisioned. He had to assemble a team for that, and he had to do it all in secret. Maria was counting down her last days at Graceland, completely unaware of the incredible journey her old family home was about to embark on. With the purchase of Maria's family home in San Lorenzo finally complete, Elvis immediately shifted gears. Buying the house was just the first step. Making it a perfect haven for Mariah, a true return to her roots, was the real astounding part of the gift. He envisioned not just a functional home, but a restored slice of history. Brimming with warmth and comfort, he assembled a new specialized team. This included top architects with expertise in historic Italian restoration, interior designers who understood Tuscan aesthetics, and a project manager based in Italy who could oversee the entire renovation. All were sworn to the strictest secrecy. They understood this was a highly personal and confidential project for an anonymous high-profile client. "I don't just want it fixed up," Elvis instructed them during a series of intense phone calls and video conferences, often late at night, due to the time difference. "I want it to feel like her home. Like Maria's home. Find out what materials were originally used, use local craftsmen, restore the vineyard, make it beautiful, but authentic, and make it comfort, modern convenience." He shared the few details he knew about Maria's family, the Morettis, their humble life, their connection to the land and the simple vineyard. He sent them photos of the house Sophia had provided, along with the faded picture Maria kept in her office. "See that?" He'd point to a specific window or a stone archway in the old photo. "Try to match that feel." The team in Italy got to work with incredible speed and dedication. They sourced local stonemasons to repair the crumbling walls, skilled carpenters to restore the ancient wooden beams, and roofers to replace the cracked tiles with authentic terracotta. The overgrown vineyard was meticulously cleared. New grapevines were ordered, and a local vintner was hired to oversee its revival, promising a future harvest reminiscent of Maria's childhood. Inside, the designers started from scratch. They researched traditional Tuscan farmhouse interiors, selecting warm, earthy colors, rustic furniture, and local artwork. Elvis was surprisingly hands-on, despite the distance. He reviewed blueprints, fabric samples, and furniture choices. He'd occasionally spot something and say, "No, Maria's more practical than that. She needs a good, sturdy kitchen table, big enough for family." Or, "That lamp's too fancy. She'd like something simpler, something that gives off a warm glow." He instructed them to include modern, comfortable touches Maria would appreciate after years in America. A spacious, functional kitchen with good appliances, comfortable beds, and a renovated bathroom. But the spirit of the old house, her family's history, had to remain. He even had them plant a small herb garden outside the kitchen window, knowing Maria loved to cook with fresh herbs. The project manager regularly sent Elvis discreet photo updates. He saw the house slowly transform from a decaying structure into a vibrant, welcoming home. The vineyard, once neglected, began to show signs of life. It was a painstaking, expensive, and logistically complex process, but every photo, every progress report filled Elvis with a profound sense of satisfaction. The astounding gift was taking shape. It wasn't just a house. It was a sanctuary, a legacy, a dream brought to life. He imagined Maria stepping through the restored doorway, seeing her ancestral home filled with light and life once more. He imagined her touching the ancient stone walls, walking through the vineyard her father once tended. Meanwhile, at Graceland, Maria continued her work, unaware of the whirlwind of activity happening thousands of miles away. She was touched by the extra attention everyone was giving her, the kind words, the reminiscing. She thought they were simply showing their appreciation before her departure. She was excited about her retirement, the idea of finally resting, but also a little sad to leave the only home she'd known for decades. Elvis, meanwhile, had to play it cool. He'd act just like normal, maybe even complain good-naturedly about a dish, just to keep up appearances. But inside he was bursting with a secret. The anticipation of the reveal of Maria's reaction was almost unbearable. He knew this would be a gift unlike any other he had ever given, not just because of its scale, but because of the deep personal meaning it held. This was his masterpiece, not of music, but of pure, unadulterated love and gratitude. With the house in Italy nearing completion, a miracle given the timeline, Elvis turned his attention to Maria's farewell party. He wanted it to be a joyous, heartfelt celebration, a grand send-off that would truly honor her years of service and her place in the Graceland family. More importantly, it would be the stage for his astounding surprise. He decided on a party at Graceland itself, a place Maria had dedicated so much of her life to. He invited a select group, his immediate family, his closest band members, the most trusted members of his Memphis Mafia, and of course, all the Graceland staff who had worked alongside Maria for years. He made sure Sophia, Maria's niece, was on the guest list too, knowing she would be vital for the big reveal. "I wanted to feel warm, personal," Elvis told his staff, who are now helping him coordinate the event. "Maria is not one for big flashy spectacles. She likes quiet elegance." So, instead of a wild rock and roll bash, he planned a sophisticated dinner party. The dining room would be decorated beautifully but tastefully, with soft lighting and fresh flowers. He even asked a local Memphis band to play some gentle classic tunes, not rock and roll, but the kind of music Maria enjoyed. Maybe some jazz standards and even some Italian folk melodies. He'd managed to find the menu was a special consideration. Of course, Maria was still cooking until her last day, so he couldn't ask her to cook for her own party. He hired a caterer, giving them specific instructions. "I want a mix of classic Southern comfort food, like Maria makes, and some traditional Italian dishes. Nothing too fancy, just good, honest food." He secretly arranged for a special cake designed to look like a small old stone house, hinting at the big secret without giving it away entirely. Maria, meanwhile, was completely oblivious to the grand plan. She was touched by the fuss, the way everyone was expressing their sadness at her departure, their appreciation for her cooking. "Oh, Mr. Presley, you're too kind," she'd say, blushing whenever he'd thank her for a meal. She assumed the farewell party was just a very generous gesture from Elvis, a sign of his gratitude. She was looking forward to it, but also feeling a mix of emotion about leaving. Elvis, however, was a bundle of nerves and excitement. He practiced his speech, wanting it to be perfect, genuine, and heartfelt. He knew this moment wasn't about him, but about Maria. He rehearsed how he would transition from praising her to revealing the gift. He coordinated with Richard and Tom on the exact moment the visual presentation of the house would begin. He even arranged for a short video from the project manager in Italy, showing the restored home and vineyard ready for Maria's arrival. He kept the biggest secret close to his chest, not even telling Priscilla the full extent of the astounding gift. He wanted her reaction and everyone else's to be as genuine as Maria's. The anticipation was building, a delicious tension that was almost more exciting than preparing for a concert. The night before the party, Elvis couldn't sleep. He walked through Graceland, the quiet house filled with the echoes of his life in Maria's presence. He thought about how much she had given, how quietly she had served. He thought about the joy he was about to bring her. It wasn't just a house. It was a home. It was history. It was a new beginning. He imagined her face. He hoped she would feel the immense love and gratitude that had gone into every single decision, every negotiation, every stone laid in her old family home. This wasn't about flash or fame. This was about family, about honoring a quiet hero. He knew tomorrow night would be unforgettable, not just for Maria, but for everyone who witnessed it. The air in Graceland's dining room crackled with a mix of warmth and bittersweet emotion. Maria's farewell party was in full swing. Soft music played in the background. Laughter mingled with the clinking of glasses, and the aroma of delicious food filled the air. Maria, wearing a simple but elegant dress, moved among the guests, accepting hugs and goodbyes, a gentle smile on her face, though her eyes were a little misty. She was surrounded by her Graceland family, and even her niece Sophia had come up from her home to be there. The night unfolded beautifully. People shared their favorite stories about Maria, her legendary banana pudding, her comforting presence during tough times, her unwavering kindness. Elvis watched her, a quiet smile on his face, his heart pounding with anticipation. The secret was so close to being revealed. After the meal, as dessert was being served, Elvis rose from his seat. The room quieted, all eyes turning to him. He cleared his throat, taking a deep breath. "Friends, family," he began, his voice warm and sincere. "Tonight we're here to celebrate someone truly special, someone who has been the backbone of this home for as long as I can remember, our wonderful Maria." A round of applause filled the room. Maria, blushing, lowered her head slightly. "Maria," Elvis continued, looking directly at her, his gaze full of affection, "you've been more than just a cook to me. You've been a confidant, a friend, family. You've nourished my body and my spirit. Always with a smile, always with love. You've seen me. Strength has always been a comfort." He paused, letting his words sink in. "We're all going to miss you terribly. Your food, yes, but even more, your presence, your heart. And we want your retirement to be everything you've ever dreamed of. A time for rest, for joy, for rediscovering your roots." Maria's eyes were glistening now, touched by his words. "Now," Elvis said, his voice dropping slightly, a hint of excitement in his tone, "I know a simple thank you isn't enough for someone like you, Maria, and a regular gift, well, that just wouldn't capture the depth of our gratitude. So my team and I, we've been working on something a little different." He gestured to the side of the room where a large screen had been subtly set up. The lights dimmed and a projector clicked on. The first image flashed onto the screen. A faded, soapy-toned photograph. It was the exact picture Maria kept in her office. The old stone house, surrounded by rolling hills. Maria gasped softly, a hand flying to her mouth. Maria, Elvis's voice narrating over the image. "This is your family home, isn't it? The Moretti house in San Lorenzo, Italy." She nodded, slowly, tears welling up in her eyes, still bewildered. Then the images started to change. The next picture showed the house in its neglected state, overgrown and slightly dilapidated. A murmur went through the room. "When we first found it," Elvis explained, "it wasn't quite as you remembered, but we wanted to change that. We wanted to bring it back to life." And then a video began to play. It was a sweeping drone shot, starting from above the Tuscan hills, then swooping down to reveal the house. But it was no longer dilapidated. It was stunning. The stone walls were restored, the roof was new, the windows gleamed. The vineyard behind it was manicured green and thriving. The room erupted in gasps and exclamations of awe. Maria stood frozen, her eyes wide, tears streaming down her face. The video continued, showing the interior. A beautiful, rustic kitchen, a cozy living area, Comfortable bedrooms, all furnished with care, blending old-world charm with modern comfort. A voice, the project managers, spoke in Italian, explaining the meticulous restoration, the respect for the Moretti family's history. Finally, the video ended on a shot of a beautiful antique wooden plaque carved with the words, "Casa Moretti Benvenuti a Casa Maria." Moretti House, welcome home, Maria. The lights came back on. Elvis walked over to Maria, who was trembling, completely overwhelmed. He held out a beautifully framed document, the deed to the property, signed and transferred into her name. "Maria," he said softly, his voice full of emotion. "This is for you, your family home, restored, beautiful, and ready for you to enjoy your retirement. It's yours, welcome home." Maria looked from the deed to Elvis, then back to the now blank screen, then back to Elvis again. She shook her head, tears pouring down her face. She couldn't speak. She simply threw her arms around Elvis, hugging him tightly, sobbing into his shoulder. "Mr. Presley," she finally managed, her voice choked with emotion. I can't believe it. It's astounding. It's my home. How?" Elvis just smiled, patting her back. "It's because you're family, Maria, and families take care of each other. This is just a small way to say thank you for all the years you took care of me." The room was filled with emotion. Guests were wiping away tears, cheering and clapping. Sophia rushed forward, embracing her aunt, equally overcome. Maria, still processing the immense generosity, held the deed tightly, her eyes fixed on it as if it might disappear. Her deepest, most unspoken dream, a place she thought was lost forever, had been returned to her, made perfect once more. By the king of rock and roll, it was truly astounding. Maria could barely grasp the deed in her trembling hands. The paper felt heavy, substantial, confirming the impossible reality. Her home, her family home restored, waiting for her. The shock slowly gave way to an overwhelming tide of emotion, disbelief, joy, and a profound sense of being cherished. Elvis led her to a chair, letting her sit down, still dazed. "Maria, are you all right?" he asked, genuinely concerned. She looked up at him, her eyes still swimming in tears. "Mr. Presley," she whispered, I don't know what to say. It's too much. How did you know?" Elvis smiled gently. "I just paid attention, Maria," and Sophia helped fill in the blanks. He nodded to Sophia, who was now kneeling beside her aunt, holding her hand. "It was always her dream, Mr. Presley," Sophia confirmed, her voice thick with emotion. "To go back to San Lorenzo, to her roots. But she never thought it was possible." "Well, now it is," Elvis said, his voice full of quiet pride. "It's all yours, Maria, fully restored, fully furnished. Everything you need to start a beautiful new chapter. The vineyard is being looked after, and it'll be ready for harvest in a few years, just like your father's." He explained the details, the teams he'd put together, the careful restoration, the dedication to preserving its history. Maria listened, her eyes widening with every detail. It wasn't just a gift, it was an act of profound love and meticulous care. The rest of the night was a blur for Maria. Everyone congratulated her, expressed their awe at Elvis's generosity. She felt wrapped in a cocoon of love and good wishes, but all she could think about was San Lorenzo, her home. A week later, Maria packed her bags, not with the sadness of leaving, but with the excitement of an incredible new beginning. Elvis arranged for her travel first class, of course, with a small entourage to ensure she arrived comfortably and was settled. He walked her out to the car himself, giving her a long, heartfelt hug. "You take care of yourself, Maria," he said, his voice a little husky. "And you promise me you'll call? Send me pictures. And if you ever need anything at all, you just let me know." Maria pulled back, her eyes shining. "Oh, Mr. Presley, there are no words for my gratitude. You've given me back my history, my soul. This is the greatest gift of my life. Thank you. Thank you for everything." She boarded the plane, looking out the window as Graceland disappeared from view, her heart swelling with a happiness she hadn't felt in decades. Upon her arrival in San Lorenzo, Maria was met by the local project manager and a small team who guided her to her newly restored home. Walking through the gate, seeing her family name on the new plaque, stepping into the sun-drenched courtyard, was like walking into a dream. The house stood proud, beautiful, just as she remembered it from her childhood, yet even better. Inside, every room was perfect, a blend of traditional Italian charm and modern comfort. The kitchen in particular brought tears to her eyes, a spacious, welcoming heart of the home, ready for her to work her magic once again. She walked through the vineyard, touching the young vines, feeling the earth beneath her feet. It was home, truly home. Maria settled into her new life in San Lorenzo, a life of peace and fulfillment. She spent her days tending to the herb garden, exploring the village, reconnecting with distant relatives, and of course, cooking. She even started teaching small, informal cooking classes for locals and a few tourists, sharing her passion for Italian and Southern American cuisine. The Casa Moretti became a vibrant hub, just as it had been generations ago. She kept her promise to Elvis. Letters and photos regularly arrived at Graceland, showing her happy, thriving, her eyes sparkling with life. She sent him homemade olive oil from the revived vineyard and recipes for her new favorite Italian dishes. Elvis, in turn, found immense satisfaction in Maria's happiness. He might have been the king, but he learned that the most profound joy came not from applause or wealth, but from a quiet act of generosity, from reaching into someone's past and giving them back their future. The bond between them, formed over years of shared meals and quiet moments, had been solidified by this astounding gift. It was a testament to the enduring power of kindness, love, and the magic of making someone's deepest dream come true. And for Elvis Presley, that felt even better than a sold-out show.